Good morning. Today we're going to read this really awesome story. Actually, it's kind of emotional for me to read it. La Frontera, My Journey with Papa by Deborah Mills and Alfreda Alva and Claudia Navarro. It is a 4.7 accelerated reading level book, and it is a story about how he came to America as a small boy. And it is in Spanish also, as you can see. I'm going to be reading the English words, but if you'd like to pause the book and read it in Spanish afterwards, you can. When I was young, my family lived in the small village of La Ceja in central Mexico in the state of Guanajuato. For over 100 years, my family had lived there. I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering these words. Such beautiful pictures. My grandfather, my uncle Tomas, and my family all worked in the piñon pine trees. Every day they walked 5 miles to the forest to gather the pine nuts from the trees. They climbed the trees and gathered the pine nuts in their sacks. I loved to watch Abuelo, my grandfather, mend the sacks and wished my hands could move as swiftly. In the summer, I worked with Papa in the valley, stacking corn to dry. The valley was also far from our village. Picture. The day came when Abuelo could no longer walk the distance to and from the pine forest. Without Abuelo's help, Papa could no longer provide for our growing family. I was the oldest, but I was still too young to work all day. I now had 2 little brothers, Arturo and Luis, and a baby sister, Ida. The baby still drank Mama's milk, but my brothers and I were always hungry. I could see Papa was unhappy, and I felt bad because I could not help him. Abuelo told Papa he must find a new home. You must leave La Ceja and find a place where work will be plentiful and your family will flourish. Take Alfredo with you, as he is your firstborn and will help you on the journey. I was sad to think of leaving my home. I would miss my donkey, Fernando. We were born in the same year, and I loved him. I would miss Abuelo and Uncle Tomas. I would miss playing with my little brothers and my friends. I did not even want to think about leaving Mama. I was hungry, yes, but I did not want my life to change. The next day, strange men came to our village. I saw Papa talking quietly with the man everyone called Coyote. Papa handed him money. He would not take pesos, only American dollars. Then the men left. I asked Papa why the man called Coyote. Papa said he takes his name from the animal. A coyote is known for its stealthy, wily ways. It is a loner and shy of strangers, just like this man. But we need his help to make the journey. His shadow is the shadow of a coyote. That's cool. I like how the artist did that. Uncle Tomas announced that we would have a going-away celebration and we would roast the family pig for the feast. All the villagers came to the party. The very old, the very young. It lasted all day and all night. We filled our stomachs with tortillas, rice, corn, bread, and much more. My cousin, Francisco, played the accordion, and there were dancing and hugging and kissing. We sang my favorite song, Amor Eterno, which means eternal love. My mother took me to the well behind the house and sat me down. She looked me in the eyes and said, "You are so lucky to be going on this special trip with Papa. You must be strong. You must think of yourself as a little bird who does not need much to eat or drink to keep flying north, just like the swallows we see every spring. And Alfredito, don't forget, I love you so, so much. She did not tell me that I would not see her or my brothers and sisters for many years. Papa and I left early the next morning. We walked to the bus station and waited for the bus to Asuncion. Asuncion? I have no idea. Sorry, guys. It was early and nobody was in the streets. A few people were waiting on the benches for the bus, but we stayed separate from the others and kept quiet. In Acuna, we met Coyote, the strange man who had come to our house. Coyote can never tell us his real name, Papa said. He knows he has many enemies, like the sly coyote he is named after. Coyote took us to the edge of the Rio Grande River. We hid in the tall grass until it was truly dark. Coyote gave us an old inner tube to float across and said he would meet us on the other side in the United States. Papa and I took the inner tube and tried to cross, but the current was too strong. We crept along the shore until we came to a shallower place. The moon was so bright, shining on the water. It was beautiful. We put our sacks on our heads and quietly and quickly waded in. As it got deeper, Papa took my sack and tied me to him with a piece of rope. I wrapped my arms around his neck. The current was strong, but the water did not go over Papa's head. I was not afraid, but I was glad to have the moonlight to guide us across. As soon as we reached the other side, we looked for Coyote, but we did not see him. I was glad, but I could tell Papa was worried. Coyote had disappeared and taken Papa's money with him. Papa sighed. We must find our own way now, Alfredo. We started running away from the border and the Rio Grande. I ran until my legs would no longer keep moving. Then Papa carried me until he too collapsed. In the morning, I saw that I had slept on top of rocks. I was so tired I had not felt those rocks all night. We started walking at dawn every day, and we walked for 5 days. There was no path, and the brambles ripped my clothes. I had many cuts. When I sat or slept on the ground, I got bitten by fire ants, and I was always watching for scorpions and snakes. We crossed over a big mountain. It was steep, and the rocks kept tumbling down, hitting me in the shins. I did not complain and worked hard to keep up with Papa. Before I knew it, the mountain was behind us. On the other side stretched a giant valley. We walked until we came to a train track. We followed them because Papa said the train crews carried jugs of water for us and would drop them along the tracks. I saw one and ran to pick it up. Sometimes we slept on top of a freight train that had stopped on the tracks. It was a good place to hide, but we had to hop off quickly when the train started moving because we didn't know where it was headed. We climbed many fences. I did not talk much. It took too much energy. But I felt safe with Papa. He would look at me with a grin and say, "Remember, little one, my name is Raimundo. It means king of the world." It always made me laugh. I asked Papa where we were going, and he answered, "To the embassy." I did not know this word. On those long days of walking, I tried to imagine what the embassy could be. It sounded grand, like a kingdom or a palace. I would ask him, "How much farther to the embassy?" but he would never answer. At the end of the 6th day, we came to a broken down shack. There was a sign on it in Spanish. "Está abierto. Tomen lo que necesiten y no destroyan. Nada gracias. It's open. Take what you need and don't destroy anything. Thank you. We slept in the shack. I sighed with relief. I was so happy not to have to sleep on the ground and worry about fire ants, snakes, or scorpions. Papa said we were waiting here for a man named Isidoro, a friend of Abuelo's. Isidoro came in a pickup truck the next day. I could read the license plate. It said Texas. I fell fast asleep in his safe, friendly truck. Isidoras took Papa and me to the embassy, which was nothing more than a collection of broken down trailers and furniture that people had dumped in the woods behind a factory. There was an old well there, and it worked, but the water was very brown. I was the only child at the embassy. We slept in an old bus, and we ate in a shack made of metal and plywood. My only friend was a baby javelina, a wild pig, who wandered in one day. I think she had lost her mother. I felt like I had too. We were both lonely, and I told her all my thoughts. She reminded me of my donkey Fernando back home. Was he wondering where I had gone? After a few weeks at the embassy, I started school. Papa showed me where the bus would pick me up and gave me a $100 bill. Carry this with you at all times, Papa said, and don't tell anyone you have it. I put the bill carefully in my little pocket in my jeans. If someone in a uniform picks you up and takes you back to the border, use this money to buy a bus ticket back to our family in La Sella. In Mexico, everyone walked to school, so I was nervous getting on the school bus. It felt dangerous. My father warned me to watch out for the men in uniforms. I thought they might be on the bus. I was very quiet and always sat at the back. After a few weeks, I felt safer on the bus, but in the classroom, I felt alone. I couldn't speak English or understand anything. I could feel the other students' eyes on me, and I knew they were talking about me. One day, a boy named Antonio came into our classroom and asked for me. He was 2 years older and spoke Spanish. I could see the other boys liked him and were jealous that he was there to see me. After that day, everything started to change for the better. My classmates helped me pronounce English words. Using their hands and their faces, they taught me numbers, shapes, feelings, names, and body parts. So many new words, and since I was good at math, I helped them too. I think my teacher had sent Antonio to me. I wanted to thank her, but did not know the right words yet. By the end of the summer, I was beginning to feel like I belonged. I could speak some English. Now I could talk to my new friends. Always at the center of my heart was my family. I missed Mama, my brothers, and my little sister. But I liked my new life. I was becoming a Texan. In November of that year, President Reagan granted amnesty to millions of immigrants, which meant we could begin the long process of applying for citizenship. 4 years later, one day, Papa picked me up from school in his truck. He said, "We are going on a very special trip today to a town called El Paso on the border." I did not want to go, but Papa promised me that this time I would not have to sleep on rocks or worry about coyotes. We drove for many hours. It was spring, and I remember all the wildflowers were in bloom along the highway. We arrived in El Paso. I was speechless to see all the faces I had missed for so long. Luis, Arturo, Ida, all so much bigger now, and Mama. I couldn't move. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I knew it was Mama. It reached right to the center of my heart. She embraced me, and we held each other for a long time. Finally, I thought, finally our family is together again. This book tells the true story of Alfredo Avala's journey to Texas in the 1980s. Alfredo's father started working as a stonemason after they moved to the United States, and when Alfredo grew up, he became a stonemason too. He still lives in Texas. Sorry, I lost my as and his has two young children of his own now. Everyone who immigrates from Mexico to the United States has a unique story. Alfredo's family was eventually reunited and they became U.S. citizens, but many immigrant families' stories ended differently. Alfredo worked with his neighbor Deborah Mills to write this story. Alfredo and Deborah wanted to share the story because many children experience similar journeys today, not just in Mexico and the United States, but all over the world. Hearing these stories can help other people understand what it would be like to experience a difficult journey like Alfredo's. Alfredo and Papa crossed the Rio Grande, the river that forms much of the border between Mexico and the United States. It is almost 2,000 miles long. In some places, the river is deep and wide. In others, it is narrow and shallow. Borders between countries can change, sometimes because of wars or because new countries are formed. Other times, borders change because the earth itself changed. When a landmark like a river or a mountain range is used as a border, the border will move over time as the land changes. The United States took half of Mexico's land in 1848 at the end of the Mexican-American War. That land became Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, and other states. It's not surprising that those states still carry on many traditions from Mexican culture. So this is what it looked like before the Mexican-American War, and this is the border now. Immigration. People immigrate, move from their home to a new country all over the world. A person might travel on a plane or a car or a boat or even by foot, like Alfredo and his papa. Some immigrants pay a coyote to guide them across the U.S. border from Mexico, as Alfredo's papa did. These guides are named after clever wolf-like animals called coyotes that hunt near the border. Immigrants must pay these guides a lot of money in order to arrive safely. The coyote guides are not always reliable, and sometimes they steal money from people instead of helping them. In other countries, guides who bring people across other borders are called different names. Here's his Uncle Tomas. This is Uncle Tomas harvesting pine nuts in the trees. This is the main street in La Cella, Mexico. People have many different reasons for immigrating. Sometimes immigrants feel pulled to a new place for better jobs or quality of life, or to reunite with their family. Other times they are pushed to leave home because of problems like war. I think that is interesting that they use those two words. They are either pulled to move or they are pushed to move. Interesting. Here's a picture of Alfredo's father with a friend, and here's Alfredo and his father at their old home in La Cella. National governments have laws about immigration. These laws often require official documents for people to enter and stay in new countries. It can be very difficult to obtain these documents. Alfredo and Papa entered the United States without this documentation. Changes in the law after they arrived gave them the opportunity to become American citizens. However, many immigrants aren't eligible to apply for citizenship. In this case, the government could send them back to the country that they left. This is why Papa gave Alfredo money to return to La Cella in case he was sent back to the Mexican side of the border. Immigrants bring parts of their culture with them when they move. For example, traditional Mexican foods such as tortillas, salsa, guacamole have become popular in the United States among people of different cultures. If you live in the U.S., most likely your family or your ancestors came there from another country. Even if it was a long time ago, there are traditions or stories your family brought with them.